for Jeremy here. This time we'll call to order the March 3rd Board of Adjustment meeting. Everyone's looked at the minutes and had a chance to review them. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes passed. Now we'll have a public hearing and a variance to Chapter 40, Article 7, fence regulations from the required 4-foot height limitation for fences located within a 20-foot front yard setback for 201 Fayetteville Avenue. The applicant is Pleasure Island Holdings, LLC. Before we get started, anyone that would like to speak would need to have you sworn in.
Solemnly swear that the statements you shall make are the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I did. Thank you.
At this time, Ms. Anderson will give the staff presentation.
Okay. And you will be able to do this? Okay. Yeah, wait until I finish and then you'll be able to do your. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm going to be presenting on the fence variance proposed for 201 Fayetteville Avenue, and we shall get into it. So just a reminder for you all, these are the required 4 criteria that is required to be met to grant the variance. So I'll just go over them really quickly. Unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance is number 1. Number 2, the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. The hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or property owner. And number 4, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. So just keep those in mind as we go through them. So I will first start with what our ordinance regulations say. We did approve an updated UDO in August, so we're referencing the new sections, but the ordinance for the fence had not changed, but we still have to reference the new section. So for section 3.20, fence regulations, height shall be measured at the highest point, not including the columns or posts. So whenever we're looking at a fence, we're looking at the column of the fence, excluding the fence posts that are allowed to go over the fence height regulations. And then speaking about the fence height regulations, no fences shall exceed 4 feet in height when it's located within the front yard setback. This parcel is located in a zoning district that requires a 20-foot front setback. So the fencing for this pool that's located in the front, the fencing that's in this red area would not be allowed to go over 4 feet per our town ordinance. And then anywhere outside of the front setback, you can have a fence up to 6 feet in height. So just a timeline of events. Going back to 2019, the town had issued a fence permit for this pool. As stated on the application, which I'll show later, we approved a 4-foot tall fence. Fast forward to 2024. In March, we received a fence application the town did, and they proposed a 52-inch tall fence. I completed the zoning review and notified the applicant that the proposed fence exceeded the allowed 48 inches or 4 feet in the front setback, and that they would have to reconfigure and reduce to meet the town ordinance. On May 10th, Kyle, which is fence contractor, had contacted me, and he asked if it would be possible to grant a variance to exceed the 4 feet fence height limitations. We suggested they try and find other alternatives to avoid the variance. The town reviewers suggest installing a different type of fence that might meet the town requirements. Again, on May 10th, I had also received confirmation, a phone call from Andrea Thomas, the New Hanover County Health Department inspector, and she had let me know that a fence was actually already installed at that address, and so I performed a site visit that day and sent the applicants an email discussing their options and what they could do to remediate the violation. On May 30th, the owner confirmed that they would apply for a variance, and then we started the process for the variance. So they applied June 6th. We were unable to do the first round meeting until September, where we asked for a continuance. And then again, November 18th, another continuance was asked. So now we are back for you guys to review. So back 2019, this is the fence permit as stated on the application, 4 feet in height, and this white fence that you see that's along 2 of the borders is what was installed. And then this was the fence permit application and comments made for the review. As you can see, the fence section was shown to be 48 inches, but based on our town ordinance for how fence height is measured, we measure from the grade, which would be the top of the slab, up to the top of the fence, so it would exceed 48 inches. Here's just some pictures for the history of the fencing, and this was taken from a 2016 Google Earth Street View. There was a chain link fence at this time in 2016, and then in 2019, half of the chain link fence was replaced with this fencing, and then this is the current fencing. So per the 2018 North Carolina State Building Code, our town ordinances, they are in line with the building code meant for pools. Building code requires at least a barrier of 48 inches, and you're not allowed to have more than a 2-inch gap underneath for a foothold. Oh, and I want to go back, sorry. And then, additionally, these photos were photos of things suggested by staff that the applicant may try and do to make the fence meet no taller than 4 feet. But at that time, after that email was sent, we didn't know that the fence had already been installed. So now we're at the variance proposal where they're proposing to exceed the 4-foot height limitation by up to about 4 inches. And then here's your findings of fact that I discussed earlier. Additionally, as a board, you can make conditions on approval. So one staff recommended condition for if you were going to approve the variance is that the variance is granted for the existing pool fencing, and if any of the fencing was replaced, then the future fencing would need to meet the town ordinance requirements. That's the end of my presentation. Did you guys have any questions for staff?
Take me back to the white fence I saw and that was put in 2019. There was looked like a chain link fence prior to that. Mm-hmm. Was there an issue? Was there a variance given for this fence? And
no, this was the fence that was installed after the fence permit was approved in 2019.
So that never came anywhere. They met all the conditions.
Potentially, we tried to look up inspection. We weren't tracking inspections at that time. Mm-hmm. On our application process, so we couldn't see if that was ever like finalized or checked off. But it's been existing until
but it was compliant. It was compliant with the ordinance.
That I'm not sure, since we have no record of a town inspection. I can't say for fact if it was or was not.
Okay.
And I also can't say for fact how tall that fence section might have been.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, I do. I have one. This is the second pool on this property, correct?
So it's technically the Dry Dock Inn is split into two properties with two separate buildings. There's the first building, which is located at the 300 Lake Park Boulevard South. That one has a pool on its own property, and this one is a separate parcel with its own building and its own pool as well.
Okay. And there's a similar fence around the other pool?
There is a fence that was granted by variance on the other pool.
Okay. And when that variance was given, were there any conditions?
I believe it was the similar condition that if they were to replace it, it would have to meet town ordinance, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
And both pools are owned by the same property owner?
Correct.
Anything? I'll make a motion to open a public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This time, the applicant can present any evidence or arguments in support of your request.
Thank you. My name is Lad Gasparovic. I'm a licensed attorney, but I'm also a partner of Pleasure Island Holdings LLC, which owns the property that is the dry dock. We actually purchased the property, and we're all locals. All of us are locals that live here. We live in Wilmington. One of our partners lives in Carolina. Two of our partners live in Carolina Beach. We purchased the property in 2021, and it was pretty dilapidated. We've done a lot of renovation. The fence that she showed, could you put the white fence back up?
Yep.
That was the fence when we purchased it. That is a standard 48-inch aluminum rail fence. The issue with that fence wasn't the height. It was approved as far as I know. The issue with when we went to open, we found out a lot of things about the property when we went to open because we had to go through health department and county inspections and town inspections. And it was the way that the fence was constructed. It didn't have to do with height, but it had to do with the fact that the fence wasn't, it was kind of falling apart in some areas, so we could not get approved with that. So that fence had to be repaired and then had to be replaced. It wasn't chain link when we got it. One of the things that we're very concerned about, obviously, is safety, and we just don't believe that chain link is an option because you all probably climbed chain link fences when you were kids, and I know that I did, so we would never have considered putting a chain link fence there, just from personal experience and also talking to the pool contractor. The reason that we're here, it's an honest mistake. The fence contractor installed a 48-inch fence. The issue is if you see there's approximately a 2-inch gap underneath that white fence, and if you were to put photos up side by side, it would probably measure exactly what we have. Because you have a raised foundation there, which is about 36 inches to the top of the concrete slab above 3 courses of block. You can't, the best way to put the fence on top, and we'll have the pool contractor or the fence contractor speak in a minute, is to do post on plate. So there's a plate that has to go down and you screw it in with concrete screws to make it strong. Those plates are about 2 inches by the time you put the plate on. So it turns a 48-inch fence to the highest rail is going to be 50 inches. But you kind of have to do that to have the door swing. So we did hire the fence contractor to install a 48-inch fence. He installed what he believes is a 48-inch fence. We agree that it is actually almost 50 inches in some places, and we are just asking for a variance to allow that based on the 4 factors. A couple other things. I mean, I think safety is the overriding thing. I looked at the town's ordinance. Looks like it's about safety number 1, and obviously, I think nationally, pool standard that's suggested for a pool is actually 54 inches, and we're at probably around 50 inches. We're about 2 inches too high, and so we think that we're under 54. As you asked, Mr. Adams, there was a variance on the other fence. The other fence is actually 54 inches. There, in that case, when we came here a year and a half ago or so, there was a little bit of confusion on that case in the previous variance between the fence contractor, the town, and the county. And honestly, that's a little bit of what happened here. When she sent that email, the fence was already up. He knew that he could do a 48-inch fence, and he did a 48-inch fence. We would have never installed the fence against her wishes, or if we knew that the town was not approving it. It was just a situation where the county did call, he thought he had approval, and he went out and did it. Kind of similar to the previous incident, but there certainly wasn't any intention. So there's more I could say. I guess the only other thing I'll say is we did get the continuance in June. We were flooded out in September when the flood hit, so we've been shut down ever since then. We are doing everything we can, using all resources and everything we can to get things worked out with the insurance company, and we should be, I'm going to try to go meet with Haley later this week to try to get things moving. So in light of all of those things, and I can speak more, if you'd like me to speak more directly to the four elements of the variance, I can speak, more directly to those if you'd like. But just in light of everything, I would ask you guys to approve the variance. And if you have any questions, I also have the fence contractor, Kyle Sears, here if you all would like to hear from him. And if not, that's okay too.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak on the matter?
Good evening. My name's Kyle Sears. I'm the owner of Sears Fence. We installed the fence for the dry dock in, and I do have, if you would like to see, just to get a closer reference of the fence that was installed by us, the reason why the fence is at 50 inches and not 48. Let me just grab these here real quick.
Take your time.
So the main intent for this fence to be installed at 50 inches as opposed to the 48-inch requirement was, as Ladd was saying, the post-on-plate construction to be on top of the elevated pool surface. The bottom rail of the fence is at its lowest point because it's sitting on the floor flange. It can't go any lower whatsoever. And that was the main reason we furnished and installed a 48-inch tall fence, but it was 48 inches from the bottom rail, not from the concrete. Sorry, I got a lot of photos here. Okay, here we are. So here is, let's see how many we got. I've only got 3. That's the bottom rail of the fence sitting on top of the floor flange, not allowing it to go down any further. If we could have taken it down further, we would have, but because of the installation, it's not feasible. Looking for one more photo here. Cannot seem to find it.
You can take your time.
Yeah. is the top rail at the highest point. That is measured from the concrete itself. And so, installation specifically speaking, the fence, this current fence that we're asking for the variance is at its lowest point based on the floor flange. And being that it is on the elevated concrete surface, that is the number one fence installation that we would perform on any raised pool deck, concrete pool deck, to secure the integrity and the safety of the fence.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sir, a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Prior to installation of this fence, did you obtain a permit from the town?
We were in the process. It was
Was it
a,
issued?
sir,
Was a permit issued?
it was not completed.
So it was installed without a permit?
Yes, sir.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I had a approval by email from Andrea with the county, but then a later email said that it was just waiting on Carolina Beach's approval.
Question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
The gate to the entrance gate,
Mhm.
where is that located?
It is in, can we go back to the black fence?
Oh, I don't have a great view of it.
Yeah, it's not pictured here.
Isn't it back there?
Yeah. So there's an L shape right here that goes back this way and then towards the building there, and the gate sits in that little L there. There's a 3-foot wide
So
walk
the
gate.
gate, the gate is not located
The
within
gate is outside of
of the
the,
site.
yes,
Okay, thank you.
of the right of way.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Was this fence, is this, I'm assuming this is like a commercial product that you order as a 48-inch fence?
This particular style fence is considered a residential. They do make a commercial grade. It's not required to use a residential or commercial.
But it is a.
It is a residential
it's
fence,
a
yes.
made, a manufactured product?
Yes.
Is there not a fence that is a couple inches shorter that would have kept in the ordinance that could have been chosen?
To my knowledge, according to the county, the lowest adequate pool fence that they will allow is 48 inches.
So, again.
From rail to rail.
From
From rail to rail, not from ground to rail, from rail to rail.
So you're saying that the county ordinance kind of has a conflict with the town ordinance to a degree?
It could be assumed that, yes.
Any other questions?
And just one more thing. Haley had sent some of the examples of the fence being mounted to the outside of the pool deck, like that were photoed. Andrea and I, with the county, we talked about that. And then in result, she confirmed that would not be allowed to have the fence for a pool install. That application would not be allowed to be approved by the county.
Did she say why?
Not that I can recall off the top of my head.
Any other questions for this gentleman? Are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Ms. Anderson, yes, sir?
If I could.
Yes.
I just realized that our application was silent as to number 3. I do have a supplemental statement, if I could hand them to you all, where I wrote them out, in case you're looking, in terms of looking at the elements of a approach. In terms of looking at the elements required, so there's a background statement on page 1 and page 2 goes through the different elements. And then I did, if it's okay, want to just point out one thing with respect to one of the questions we just had. The reason, Mr. Hartzell, that it was installed without a permit is because there was confusion. He heard from, I believe it was Angie at the county, and so it was a mistake, but it was an honest mistake. So neither Mr. Sears or us as the owner intended to install the fence without a permit. He believed he was going out there and it was okay for him to do it. You're correct that he could not have installed a 46-inch fence or another custom fence because that would not have passed the county because we have a pool. The pool is going to require a minimum 48-inch. So there is a little bit of a conflict, and part of the conflict comes with how can you install it. It has to be a minimum of 48 inches, but it can't go at all over 48 inches. So it doesn't give you any leeway to construct it. And if the county won't allow it, the county won't allow you to do anything that has anything that a child could climb on. So I think there is a little bit of a conflict. Perhaps it's something that could be addressed by giving a little bit of flexibility inside the ordinance to allow some leeway if there is if there's a pool there. But item 3, I just realized was blank what we submitted. And so I'll just highlight very quickly, but on the first count was unnecessary hardship would result from strict application. It was an honest mistake as I've mentioned. The other thing that we didn't really touch on that Mr. Sears can talk about is, you know, I guess the purpose of the fence ordinance is aesthetics and safety. And if you drive up and down Lake Park Boulevard or the other roads, there are fences all over the place. There are new fences that are installed that are much higher than ours, and I'm not trying to blow the whistle on anyone. I'm just saying I don't think our fence being 2 inches off from an aesthetic standpoint is going to mess anything up. Also, it's a little bit arbitrary because it's a 48 or 50-inch fence that's sitting on top of a 36-inch platform. So it's going to be whatever height it is based on the height of a platform. If the platform was 6 inches higher, the fence would still be 6 inches higher, if that makes sense. It is peculiar to the property because we have a pool there. We've got to deal with the pool issue as well. And this is not just a property along the road that does not have a pool, so we've got to deal with fence safety. Old concrete surface with concrete block that Mr. Sears has testified or has indicated the only way to, the proper installation with that is post on plate, and the post on plate gives you a 2-inch riser. And so he put it down as low as he could, which looks to be exactly like the fence that was approved in 2019. Number 3, and this is the one that was blank. I just wanted to get it on the record so you'd have something to consider, but it didn't result from actions taken by the applicant or property owner. We did convey it to the fence contractor. It wasn't a condition that we purposely created, and there was a little bit of conflict between the county's requirements for pool and safety and the towns for, you know, minimum height. There's a maximum height from the county, and there's a minimum height from maximum height from the town, minimum height from the county, and it literally would leave us, the way it's written, it would leave us literally, you know, not an eighth of an inch for wiggle room to be off that. And then number 4, consistent with the purpose, spirit, and intent of the ordinance. I mean, it's aesthetics and it's safety, and I think that our fence is safe because it's around a pool and it meets pool code a couple inches above that, and aesthetics. Still at the height it is with the riser, it's still lower than some of the other fences. So I just wanted to get that on record since I saw our application didn't have a number 3. And if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Anyone? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Question from Ms. Anderson. Haley, do you believe there is a conflict between the county and the town?
In the strictest sense, no. The minimum required, or we require 4 feet. The county requires a minimum of 4 feet. Now, it being super strict in terms of if you go over that by any, unfortunately, our ordinance does bind it to no taller than 4 feet. So for the 48 inches in the post to post, or sorry, to the rail to rail, you'd have to put that rail on the ground to meet the 48 inches for how a fence could possibly potentially be constructed. But we do meet the minimum required for building code.
Thank you.
Chairman, also I add in the ordinance, pools or new pools are not allowed in the front yard setback, so you wouldn't have this issue. It's just these older developments, call them parking lot pools for these hotels. There's only a handful of them, but those, we could run into the issue when they change out their fencing, because they are located into the setback.
Thank you. Questions? I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I may briefly, as the board considers the four findings, I wanted to note one additional sentence that is in the general statutes under the second criteria that I don't know if that's listed in your packet, but I have handouts for the board, but I'll read it too. When you're considering the second criteria,
The hardship?
yes, sir. The statute, this is 160D 705, has an additional sentence under that criteria that states, "A variance may be granted when necessary and appropriate to make a reasonable accommodation under the Federal Fair Housing Act for a person with a disability." I just wanted to note that for the record as you consider any of the variances that are before you this evening. And I'll hand that out so that you have that language for number 2.
Thank you, sir.
And I'll hand it out to the attorneys here also. I think I don't know if that is part of the applicant's presentation, that criteria, but I think it would be appropriate if they want to make a point under that they be allowed to make that if that's part of their case. Just hand it down, thank you. I guess I'll just ask if the applicant has any further to add at this point. If we don't, gotta get that addressed.
Any discussion? Thoughts? Okay. Ready to vote? Give us another slide.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Anyone like to make a motion? Mr. Boykin?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for the clarification for the parties in the town, board could do this before or after it makes a motion, but I would recommend that the board go through the 4 criteria
That's what I was looking for.
and discussions. Yeah, okay, thank you.
You give us that, Haley? That's what I was expecting. Okay, on number 1, unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance.
No.
Mr. Hartzell?
No.
No.
Okay. Another one, number one. The hardship resulted from conditions that are particular to the property, such as location, size, or topography. Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Adams? Dan? Yes, no?
No, number two.
Yes, sir?
No.
No. No.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize again for interrupting. I would recommend that there be some factual statement or basis for the analysis of the criteria.
Okay.
So,
We'll finish number two and go back to one.
yes, sir, that would be, I think that would be appropriate. Thank you.
Finish number two. I'm going to say yes, because in my opinion, it is particular to that type of pool that we don't see would not be allowed currently, and it has been a remodel. So they were, anybody want to? Verbalize.
That was my thoughts as well.
Okay. Mr. Adams?
Sorry, it's my misunderstanding. I agree with you. So,
So you are a yes, yes?
One.
Are we still on three?
We're on number two. It was just, still on number two.
Still on
Just,
number two.
just the reason why
I
you
say
vote.
no.
And why? They're asking for a basis for the no. Yeah, Wayne, they're asking why you're saying no. Why?
Why I'm saying no?
Yes, sir.
The hardship results in the conditions that, I don't think the hardship results from any conditions that are peculiar to the property.
Okay. Fair enough. And Mr. Boykin?
No, and I agree with Wayne that it doesn't result from conditions that are peculiar to the property, location, size, or topography.
Okay. Number three. No, did we go back to one? We already did one.
I would,
You
I would suggest going back to one. and
Okay,
Clarifying the reasons for the.
Okay. Let's go back to number one. An unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance.
Yeah, I don't agree with that because obviously if the fence was at 48 inches, top to bottom, it's not changing, anything. So I don't think that that's going to cause an unnecessary hardship.
Okay. Mr. Adams?
I agree with this.
Say that a little bit louder, sir.
I agree with what Mr. Marshall said.
Okay. Mr. Boykin?
No, I don't think it would create any unnecessary hardship.
Okay.
From the strict application of the ordinance. you know,
And
so-
what's your basis for that?
Well, I think going into this, they knew from the previous example that they had submitted that they, what the deal was with the 48 inches. So they didn't go into it completely blind. They went in knowing what the rules were going to be. So,
Thank you. Mr. Hartzell?
And I still say no, in the absence of the variance, no reasonable use can be made of the property that can reasonable use of the property. And I agree with all of it that we're into the second round of the same thing that we did through the first time and should have perhaps not created the second problem.
And in my view, there is no unnecessary hardship. I think it is an unfortunate action that was taken by the applicant, and I do believe there is a fence that could be at 48 I think the ordinance could be complied with. So now we'll go down to number 3. The hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner.
I think it did.
Okay.
And the reason being that I think had the applicant understood the rules prior to putting up the fence and make sure they had all the permits, they would have had a clearer understanding and would have installed it properly.
Mr. Adams?
Yes, the hardship did result from their actions. Their prior history of what the codes and all were, and acted without them, so.
Number 3, Mr. Boykin?
Yeah, it did result from actions taken by the applicant, knowing that there had already been one pool that had been through this process before. So they knew.
Thank you. Mr. Hartzell?
And the hardship did result, because knowing, having gone through the problems of the first go-around, so
Okay.
same thing.
I feel that the hardship was caused by the applicant, and my basis for that is reviewing the timeline that Haley took us through and the emails that were associated with those timelines. And number 4, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and the intent of the ordinance such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved.
I think it is. I think that their goal is to create a safe environment around the pool, and that the difference in the 1.5 inches or 2 inches or whatever it is isn't going to change any of that. And I do think that was their intention, was to create a safe environment.
I agree.
Mr. Boykin?
I say yes, because it does increase public safety.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the requested variance is consistent with the safety of the situation. I still think that there was a way that the safety could have been obtained without having to go through a variance.
Mm-hmm. And I feel that the variance is consistent with the spirit, the purpose, and the intent. I think they wanted to do the right thing. I think the applicant said, even though it was unintentional, but they did put the cart in front of the horse in regards to the permit. That's unfortunate. Okay. So based on that vote, the variance is next.
Yeah, yes, sir. Based on the findings, there could be a motion to.
Okay. Okay. I'd make a motion to deny the variance of 4-inch to section 40-204 from the 4-foot fence height requirement in the front yard setback located at 201 Fayetteville because it did not meet the 4 findings of fact.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just for the record, was that 2 inches or 4 inches? We had it measured at 2. I wrote it.
Yeah, I think you guys had it measured at 2.
For the record, it was not 4 inches, it was 2 inches.
I think I had gotten the 4 inches from
Let's take
this.
I'm just about to finish. Yes, sir, I agree. Should I make another motion?
I want to make sure I understand that. I was reviewing this.
Yeah, the applicant was saying that said 4-inch height discrepancy, and he pointed out that he believes it's only a 2-inch height discrepancy on the motion.
Yeah, I think it could just, anything over the 48 inches for the height regulation that the
Mhm.
ordinance references would need a variance. So
Mhm.
it sounds like that this board did not grant that variance to go over 48 inches.
Yes, sir. Okay,
That's my understanding.
so I don't need to make another motion?
No, the variance has been denied.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. We will take a 7-minute recess to refresh, and we'll meet back here. And I believe we will, I will resubmit my motion, the motion for a vote.
And I'll just clarify for the record, we've asked the applicant to come back into the chambers to clarify the board's vote, and this is based upon the screen that was shown, stated that the, excuse me one second. There was a reference previously to a 4-inch
Yes.
variance request. Can I ask the applicant to come up and, so there's no confusion as to what exactly the variance request is?
So I just wanted to clarify, because I don't believe that the fence is 4 inches over. I believe it's exactly around 2 inches over, and I don't know, Haley, if that's what you got. The 2 inches is the exact height of the riser. And I realize everything else that the board has said. Just to reiterate that the reason that it's over 48, it's we can't go a minimum, we can't go below 48 because of pool safety. So it puts us in a spot where you literally have no leeway, and you have to put the bottom rail directly on the ground, and there's not a feasible construction alternative for that. I don't know if there's a way that we could have gotten a custom-made fence. I don't know that it would still be able to satisfy. I think the challenge is you've got a minimum of 48 required by the county for the pool and a maximum of 48. Our fence is 2 inches over. It's not 4 inches over. So to the extent that the board thought that we were 4 inches over, I just wanted to clarify that it's exactly 2 inches from our measurements. And, you know, Mr. Sears didn't talk about this, but there are fences all over up and down the main drag that are far more than that. I'm not sure exactly why. I don't know how many variance requests you all have, but we felt like we satisfied the 4 conditions.
Thank you, sir. Let me read that. Okay, I will make another motion here. I'll make a motion to deny variance to exceed the maximum 4-foot or 48-inch fence height requirements for the front yard setback in section 3.20 located at 201 Fayetteville Avenue because it did not meet the 4 findings of fact.
I will second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye. And to clarify for the record, the board's decision is based upon the findings previously made.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Next, we'll hear a variance to the required 20-foot setback for 1621 South Lake Park Boulevard. The applicant is Philip Humphrey, Architecture. Anyone that would like to speak regarding the case would be signed in, please. Sworn in.
Sorry, you solemnly swear, oh, got a straggler. You solemnly swear that the statements you tell me are the truth, so help you God?
I'm sorry, say that again. Yes, yes.
And Haley will give the staff presentation.
Okay. Hello again. I'll be presenting on the variance to Article 3, Section 3.13, dimensional requirements, to allow an intrusion into the front yard setback for 1621 South Lake Park Boulevard. Again, a reminder of the required criteria, since we just went over these in thorough detail. I'm going to skip that one. So a bit of background about the property. It's located in the MF zoning district. The front yard setback requirement for this zoning district is 10 feet. The existing use is a motel, and the lot size is 0.68 acres. And this is the subject property. So in terms of our town ordinance, it's located nice and neat here in our table. For the minimum front setback of the zoning district, in the MF zoning district, it allows a 10-foot setback off that front, which would be Lake Park Boulevard South. So the property is being renovated, and the owner would like to install a ADA compliant ramp leading into the motel. The current ramp is set back 3 feet, 11 inches, almost 4 feet, essentially, currently. And the new setback for expanding this ramp and railing to meet the ADA requirements would be about 3 feet, 3/8 inches. The ramp would have to be expanded to meet the ADA requirements. ADA requires at least 4 feet width. And because the railing is now going over 30 inches, this is why they would have to get a variance for this. Anything that's 30 inches or lower is considered a grade level. And it's allowed to go into that front setback, but once you go over 30 inches in height, then you have to meet the front setback requirement. So it would have to be 10 feet. And I'll go over all of this. So this is the existing. This is a side entrance. This is currently less than 30 inches, so this is allowed to be here. And this is the area on the front that we're speaking of. So the applicant would like to change this into an ADA ramp that would go along the front and come in here to allow ADA access into the building.
Was that the picture on the left you showed in the previous slide?
This is a blow-up of this spot.
Can you show that previous slide?
Yes. Yeah, so
So-
this right here
That,
on the side.
where the yellow door is, that's the one?
Is this area right here.
Okay, thank you,
So this is Lake Park Boulevard South, right here.
thank you.
So the original ramp that was there was about 3 feet, 8 inches. They're expanding it for ADA allowance to be a little over 4 feet. And then that would make the new setback to be 3 feet, about 3 feet and 1/8 inch. There's your findings of fact. Again, on this one, if you were to approve the variance, you're allowed to do some conditions, as you guys discussed. Staff recommends, if you were to approve it, if the site is redeveloped, so if this structure is like demoed, if a new structure is built, new construction, the new structure would need to meet town building setbacks. And that's the end of my, if you have any questions for me.
I do. So this variance would, unless we put a condition on it, and if it were approved, this variance would just get rid of we would just have a variance for any use.
Yes.
But if we put a condition, it could only be used for the particular use in which he's applying.
I believe so, yes. Otherwise, the building could be, it's a variance that is perpetually tied to the property, so the building could be built back to have that 3 foot, 1/8 setback.
Okay.
As part of the renovations that they're doing, is there a requirement to do a sidewall?
No, they're just renovating the existing building, so we can't require the condition.
There's no sidewalk there now, correct?
I don't believe so. Let me go back to my aerial. No, I don't believe there is technically a sidewalk there.
That's
And
pretty far
give me-
south.
Give me the dimensions again. So the ramp is proposed to be 4 feet.
Yeah, so the ramp itself extending off the side of the building is going to be 4 feet, 1.5 inches wide. That's not including the railing. And then the setback from the outside of this railing to the side property, or to the front property line, is going to be about a little over 3 feet. So you're essentially reducing it by almost a foot, the existing kind of front setback from that structure, but.
Anyone? Questions?
Yeah, apparently I'm not seeing something straight. Go back to the photograph that you have of the building.
This
Is
one?
that not a sidewalk on on this side of the palm tree?
I believe it's just,
Dirt path or something.
I believe.
Looked like asphalt to me.
Yeah, it's
So-
probably
so
a,
the-
go ahead.
The fencing that is there now, called the railing, that would come out approximately 6 inches.
It would come out about 11 inches from where this currently is.
So is the variance they're requesting for the railing or for the increased width of the ADA compliant ramp?
It's technically for the railing.
Okay.
It has to go out that far because of the requirements for an ADA access ramp.
Okay. And the railing is how high?
Great question. I don't know if the applicant might be able to
Okay,
answer
I'll
that.
ask that question later. Okay. Any other questions for staff?
Yes, and still talking about the railing. Is the railing going to be brick like that, or is it an open railing?
That will probably also be another question for the applicant. I don't know if we have information for what's they're proposing there.
All right. I'll make a motion to open a public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this time the applicant can present evidence and arguments in support of their application.
Good evening. My name is Alan Solana. I'm attorney for the applicant. I want to go over just a couple of issues. So,
Thank you.
sorry.
People on YouTube want to hear you.
Is that better?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay. I want to go over a couple of physical characteristics of the building that put us in this situation. We're required to have a level landing for ADA compliance. And the level landing cannot have more than a half-inch rise when you go over the threshold into the building. And therein lies the problem. You have to raise the landing in order to get to the door height to get in. That brings us over the 30 inches. Otherwise, we wouldn't be required to put a railing in. And it's the existing building, where it's built, how it's built, where the door is relative to the front, and the slope of the ramp. All of those criteria result in this request for the variance, because you have to have a level landing. It can't be lower than a half inch over the threshold. There isn't any other way internally to change the building. And then obviously the width of the landing is dictated from the ADA code. And this is the least obtrusive way we can make it compliant so that, you know, we can get handicapped people, people with strollers, you know, people with special needs can get into the building. Otherwise, it can't be done. And as Mr. Nichols pointed out, that when a variance is granted for necessary and appropriate to make a reasonable accommodation, there isn't really another way for us to take this existing structure and to get a ramp and put it in without moving doors, without changing the, you know, tremendous amount of the subfloor of the joist, the interior layout. I mean, this is the least obtrusive. And it ends up being approximately 10 to 11 inches into the setback. This building was built in 1968, prior to the zoning ordinance, prior to the adoption of the American with Disabilities Act. And, you know, we're limited by the structure and the placement and where it is. The slope of the ramp, the width of the ramp, the requirement of a railing because it's raised up more than 30 inches. And I am sure that my client would agree to the restriction that if the building is ever raised or rebuilt, that it would be a requirement that that setback encroachment be eliminated. It would certainly be something my client would agree to. So most of this is a result of where the existing structure is built, how it's built, where the door is located, and the height of the foundation. And then marrying that with the slope, the width, a level area, length of the level area to get into the building. There's just no other physical way to do it, other than to get this variance. And I request that, under the 160D705, Part D, that this would fall under an appropriate to make a reasonable accommodation, given the facts and circumstances of this case. Anything else?
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there any, yeah, you can ask.
In the picture that she has up there, where the ramp is going to be, where does the ADA compliant person, I mean, the wheelchair, whatever they're using, where do they go when they're on that ramp? Through the yellow door?
So the new one's gonna come down and it's gonna turn on the side. So you're gonna go up a ramp, go up, and get into that door. There's I think the plan that was submitted with it shows the entry door on the side.
Bless you.
Bless you.
It's hard to read, but they've got it leveled off where you enter through the first door on the right.
Right here.
Yeah.
This is Lake Park Boulevard South.
Okay.
This is the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
So they would take the ramp. This is the front door to get in. So they would take the ramp all along the side of the building to come into the lobby area right here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the first door.
Hey, did those blueprints specify the door size?
It's an exterior door.
No, I don't believe so. Not that I see.
Okay. I was just curious with, you know, with wheelchairs and things today, a 3-foot door just doesn't do it. It needs to be a 3'6", a 42-inch door to meet ADA stuff. I was just curious.
Mhm.
Since he's adding the ramp, is he making the doors wider?
Fair question.
The architect's not here. I don't have, the full plans, and it's not dimensioned. I can't give you information. I just don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming that the entrance to the side, if you can go back to the other
Yep.
blueprint. So the entrance that's coming off of the parking lot area, there must be steps inside of that foyer to go up to?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that's the reason.
That's why they have to go around the side, yes.
Mhm.
All right.
Now, explain again where the ramp starts on the side, not on Lake Park Boulevard, but on the side. Where's the ramp starting?
So the ramp starts in front of the building. If this is the parking lot out here, and let me, hold on. Okay. So the ramp goes right along here behind the parking spaces. So it starts here and then turns and goes here. And this is where the entrance is.
I have
Now,
a
show
picture of
that,
that, Mike.
what you just showed me on the picture right beside that one.
On here?
Yes.
Yep. So, and you can't see the edge of the awning,
Okay.
but it would come right beside the edge of this awning on this side, and then it would come where this existing sidewalk is right here. It would follow this.
Okay.
So it makes an L shape.
Not right in front of the doors under that. Oh,
It's not under the awning, I don't believe, no.
okay. I was just trying to
To
get
the
some.
left.
Yeah, it's not impeding people's access.
I was just trying
Into
to
the
get,
building here.
Understand
Mhm.
where the.
Yeah, I was trying to see if there were, as part of the attachments
They're
for the
having to,
packet.
they're having to go a little further to get inside because of the way inside is designed from the lot. So
Yeah.
at least they have a way.
Yeah, this part, although it's very,
Do you have information about what that wall's gonna look like, that railing's gonna look like?
It's not spec'd on the plan, but they're trying to make it as unobtrusive as possible. I have a picture is kind of hard to glean it there if I can approach. It shows.
And Ms. Anderson, there, on the rendering, the elevation, it shows
Yeah.
what it's
Yeah.
gonna look like.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's not going to impede anything in the front. Literally, it's going to start here. Come right.
On this one, Jeremy?
Yeah, you know, zoom in on there, that wall.
Yes, sir.
Turn and go up.
It's gonna match the siding of the building.
This one's a little
Okay.
easier to see. It's gonna start
Yeah.
here. Come right. It's right here.
And as Mr. Hardison pointed out, these are the elevations that were attached to the packet. This is the proposed railing wall on the exterior.
And that is the front view looking from Lake Park Boulevard. And the plans do show modifications to the doorway to answer Mr. Hartzell's question, to accommodate a larger
The Wheelchair.
door.
It looks like they're deleting a window and putting a double door in.
Any more questions for the applicant? I'll make a motion, thank you, sir. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, any discussion amongst us?
All in favor? Aye.
Well, I'll start it off. I don't have an issue with what they're asking for.
I don't either.
Okay, we'll start with number one. Unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance. It shall not be necessary to demonstrate in the absence of the variance, no reasonable use can be made of the property. I believe unnecessary hardship would result for those that need that particular entrance, help, assistance, so my basis for that is I don't believe there's another way that I've heard, based on the evidence we heard, for handicapped persons to access the building other than that.
Agreed.
I agree with that.
Yes.
Okay. Number two, Mr. Nichols, is this where your piece came in, or is that number three?
Yes, sir, it's number 2, and it's actually on the screen
Oh, okay.
this time, yeah. And I wanted to make sure, just clear for the record, I think I know the answer to this question, but there was no one else here to speak on this item.
No, I asked if anyone, I thought I did, maybe I didn't.
No, it's just we're just clarifying for the record. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Number two, the hardship results from conditions that are particular to the property, such as location, size, or topography. Keeping in mind that variance may be granted when necessary and appropriate to make reasonable accommodation under the Federal Fair Housing Act for a person with a disability. In my opinion, the hardship results from the conditions that are particular to the property that was built in 1968, before ADA compliance, before probably any of the similar ordinances we have now. So my basis for that is the evidence that we heard from the applicant's attorney.
I agree with that. That's,
Variance would allow it to be ADA compliant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The hardship did not result from the actions taken by the applicant or the property. I do not think the hardship resulted from anything the applicant did. They're simply trying to remodel it, and there are certain things that characteristics of the property that existed prior to. My basis for that is the fact that the building is exactly where it was, and the ADA, that would probably be the only reasonable way to access it, based on the evidence of the attorney.
Did not.
Okay.
not.
Did not.
The requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance such that the public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. I agree that it is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent. And based on the evidence we heard, I think substantial justice will be achieved, in particular for those who may not be able to access in any other way in regards to number 2 that we went over.
And public safety is secured because they're putting up a fence there, so, I mean, it's not a matter of the wheelchair's gonna roll off into Lake Park Boulevard or anything, or the people are gonna jump off the ramp onto the, Lake Park Boulevard. So I think public safety is secured by what they've got planned.
Agreed?
I agree.
Agreed.
I agree with that.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve a variance of 6 feet, 11 5/8 inches to Article 3, Section 3.13, dimensional requirements from the 10-foot setback requirement at 1621 South Lake Park Boulevard, and that it meets the 4 findings of fact, with the condition that should anything else be put there other than this ADA ramp for this specific purpose that we heard tonight, then the setback encroachment shall be eliminated either through reconstruction or razzing the building and redevelopment.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, sir. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, he did. Okay, our next, let me see here. See. Okay. That's everything on the agenda. We'll go into non-agenda items, and for that, our next BOA meeting will be March 17th at 6 o'clock. Does anyone else have anything?
I'm good.
Okay. I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.